Let's take an example of a IT project. We are doing a IT project, IT software development project, okay? And then we say that we are doing it in the conventional way, which is waterfall method, or we are doing it in the, you want me to make it a little bit bigger so you guys can. Is it visible now? Okay,
Yeah.
okay. So, so we will talk about some life cycle, which is IT project life cycle, okay? Now, IT project lifecycle starts in a waterfall method. It starts with requirement capturing phase, okay? And then what you have is the, let's say, design phase. And then what you have is the development phase. And then what you have is the testing phase. Let me say it's phase. And then let me say it's phase. And then let me say phase and requirement phase. Okay. Sorry for that. And then we may have something called, after testing, we may have launch, let's say. Okay. And there are certain activities which are done during launch. Part of that is a transition to the operations and then testing phase. All right. Now, what do you see here is a kind of waterfall, like a water which falls from top to bottom and it never goes up, right? We say that it's a waterfall. So we say there is no feedback loop from here back uh, to the previous stage. Let's say we do not go from launch back to the testing. We do not go from testing back to the development. We do not go to design back to from development to design, or we do not go from design to requirements. We don't do this. We just do this like a waterfall, like this, and then phase after phase, we finish. So this means not a single line of code is written until full complete design is ready. If you see here, you will not you will not write a single line of code until your design is done. You will not start testing until your complete development is done. You will not start designing until you capture the and locked the requirements. So you have phase gates. These are your phase gates. One phase ending, other phase starting. One phase ending, other phase starting. One phase ending, other phase starting. If I relate back to our slide, if you see what's written over here, uh, if you see, new phase begins only when the previous phase is completed. So that's plan-based approach. New phase begins only when the previous phase is completed and activities completed in a distinct or a linear fashion. So this is the characteristic of a plan-based approach, which you can see in this Excel, that we activities are completed in a distinct linear fashion and no phase begins. A phase begins only when the previous phase is completed. When we are done with the requirement, we can start design. When we are done with the design, we can start development. When we're done with the development, we can start testing. What is the problem of this approach? The problem is we are living in a very adaptive environment. The change is inevitable. We may need to change requirements when we are in the design phase. We may have a new requirement for which we may need to change or alter our design. Let's say we are doing development and then there is a change request coming. So it's very late. We are in the development and a new change request comes, which means I need to revisit my design. I need to revisit my code that I have written, and I need to discard a lot of stuff which is already done. So my effort will be wasted. We do not want this in conventional projects more often. We do not want this. Okay, but it's inevitable. It can come. Change is inevitable. We need to find a way to manage a change, and that's where the agile comes in, which gives us an opportunity to loop back. This loop back opportunity was not there in the conventional or the waterfall development method. Okay, that we could not loop back to the previous phase. Now let's go back and see what else we understood from today. From the change based approach. Okay, so plan based approach is clear, guys. Gigi, George.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Okay, so then I will little bit make it. Okay. So there are other approaches. And you also heard me saying this is a predictive project management. I call it plan-based project management, plan-based approach, or I can call predictive. And why I call it predictive approach of project management? Because on the day one, I can predict two things. I can predict cost and time. Two things. Why? Because on the day one, I know the scope. If I know the scope, if I know the scope, I can predict the time and cost required. And this gives me one more way to remember this triangle. You have scope, you have cost, and you have, let's say, time. Okay, so this is fixed in Agile. Sorry, this is fixed in plan-based approach. The scope is fixed and known. What can vary is cost and time. What can be predicted is cost and time. So let's say in this kind of project, a sponsor walks in and asks Mr. Project Manager, I have to construct a bridge or a house. How much it will cost me and how much time is needed. So project manager will use his planning muscles, and he or she can come up with uh, the cost and time based on the scope of the house. That okay, you need 2-bedroom villa. Okay, he will ask few questions, and then it will be very clear for him that what kind of house is being talked about. Okay, so without going into nitty and gritty, the rough order of magnitude estimate he can give, not on day one, on day two, maybe three, but he can predict. He can predict because it's not something shot in the dark. It's not something visionary. It's not some software that need to be developed. It's something which is visual. We can see a house, a bridge, a building, a high-rise building even. We can visualize it. We can estimate it. The problem comes when we deal with complexity and uncertainty and an ever-changing environment where even client himself do not know it all. He want the flexibility. Today, he is telling you something. Tomorrow, he want the flexibility to tell you an entirely different thing, right? So in that case, I cannot predict how much time and cost it will be required because Mr. Sponsor, you don't know what you want because you don't know what you want in your software. And you can tell me what you want and I can do something for you based on what you described me today. Tomorrow, if if environment change, if you change your mind, if you got to know something more, you are free to innovate, but tell me something so that I can start working on. So this is the way we manage in the agile environments, that when the requirements are open, now that the triangle is inverted in agile. In agile, what is there? The triangle is like this. So here, problem is that scope is the only variable. It's varied. Scope is varies. Not known. It need to be found out. But the sponsor will tell you, I have $100,000 and I have to go to market in a month. Okay, with some new product. So he knows, he doesn't know what he wants, but he knows that he has this much budget and he need to go to market in a month. So his constraints, he knows that he has little money, little time. But with what cool product he should go to the market, he doesn't know. He need to he want to go to the market with best product. But now the planning muscles of the PM will be utilized in understanding the features that should go into the product which sells, which sells. So yeah, so now the planning muscles are in the scope of the project. Like what are the valuable features that we need to deliver in this minimum time and in this minimum budget so that the client should be happy with the final product. You got this idea, guys? Gigi, idea clear? I think.
Yes, yes. Yes, sir.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
clear. You
yeah, yeah.
continue.
I just was not very efficiently annotating it, but it's cost and it's time. So this is fixed, cost is fixed, but the variable thing is scope is variable. So I can play with the features in, feature out, some features in, some feature out, to some features X, some features on the product removed, some brought in to just make the product competitive. And what shall I do with this type of development? Now let's come to the cycle. Our cycle here will be repeating. Sorry, our cycle, let's forget about annotating. We come back here. In Agile, what we will do? We will have repetition of requirement gathering. Like requirement gathering will be done. Like let's say we say in 2 weeks, what we will be doing. We'll gather the requirements, okay, with the customer, whatever he knows, and then we'll quickly start the designing, okay, and then we will be doing the development of whatever we understood. We will test and we will deliver. We'll test and we'll deliver something working for our client. But in this case, this time period is actually very small iteration of 2 weeks. But if you see this time period, it was 1 year. The full project was 1 year project. And if you see one more thing, if you see I don't need you. I can X you. If you see one more thing here, insert. This requirement phase could took 2 months. I just gathered the requirements, and then I took 2 months to design, and I took another 4 months to develop maybe, and then I took 1 month of testing, and then I launched in maybe 2 months or 1 month. Maybe it all took me 4, 8, and 10 months maybe. Yeah, but maybe okay. Let's to make the math work. We say okay, 4 months of development and 4 months of design. Okay, then it makes it 12. But here we are going to repeat this cycle one after another. Now let's make it short iteration. So we call it a 2-week iteration or a sprint, iteration or a sprint. And this is, guys, this is agile. This is chain-based approach, or agile approach. Okay, and we are going to repeat it again and again, iteration 1, iteration 2, iteration 3, so that customer sees we are delivering something after each 2 weeks, and then we ask for the feedback and we improve. We ask for the feedback after delivery. Here at this stage, we ask for the feedback here, feedback, and then we gather the feedback, and then here also we gather the feedback. So the feedback was missing in the previous method, and we are adding the feedback. This feedback loop is very important because we ask client to give us some requirements. Based on that, we designed, we developed, we tested, we delivered. Then we ask for the feedback. Okay. And meanwhile, client was free to innovate. Like he was free to think about next feature. After 2 weeks, he came, he reviewed our work, and then he gave us feedback. If he liked it, we may ask for more requirements and we work on the next feature. But if he has some feedback, we may iterate over it. The same feature that, let's say we delivered feature A, we delivered here, we may iterate over it again, and then we deliver feature A again. If there is any feedback was given, we will not take up the feature 2, we'll just deliver. So with this idea, and then this continues until we end up with the money. Because when I deliver, when I engage a developer, a tester, a designer, a business analyst. So what is the job of the requirement gathering team? A business analyst will be needed. Here, some developer will be needed, such as front-end developer, some back-end developer will be needed for the development. Okay, a tester will be needed. Okay, now a PM will be needed for the delivery. Now this team will cost me, right? So from the product or project budget, the cost will come. So in this type of project, if a sponsor comes to the PM and asks that how much time, how long the project will run, so he will say that as much as you like you want to continue it forever, we will continue to enhance it. If we'll continue to run the sprints. If you want to whenever you stop, that okay, that's the majority of the product, we stop here. But now the question comes that the projects are done for the short period of time or maybe long period of time, but time box events, we are not staying away. We have short time box iterations, small projects within a product life cycle. Within a product that we are delivering, we have small projects that we are doing for 2 weeks each. Okay, and we are iterating over it, doing again and again to improve single product that we are launching. And we may release.
We will need to leave in like at 11.
Yeah, we are done. I was
so just to summarize it, if you go back to that diagram.
Yeah.
Right. So the first one, the phases of development, design, requirement, design. I can see it properly. Can you make it a little bit bigger? Okay, requirement, design, development, testing, launch. It's only one cycle. And somehow there is a fixed target date. It's like you don't repeat all of these phases again, because it's like you're very clear of exactly what is the result that the stakeholders wanted.
That's why it's the waterfall design going down in the diagram, right?
Whereas the second one, there is like a repetitive cycle of doing all of those phases, because there is an ending process of improvement. So like improvement 1 is iteration 1. So you have to go through all of that: requirement, design, development, testing, and launch. So now the end result or the date of completion of this project cannot be determined straight away, because it depends on what the stakeholder would like to do with regards to the iteration or improvements. Am I right?
Perfect, beautifully summarized. You are best in summarizing the things.
Okay, well, you've already explained it, and this diagram that you made, I do appreciate it. It makes it clearer for us to understand. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
All right, I think enough for today, guys. It was how was it?
It's brilliant. It's yeah, it's brilliant.
You like it?
Thank you so much for this. It's very inspiring. It's a lot of work to be done, but now our homework is that we need to look at the dashboard and go through the session 1, right?